So as of right now, I'm working on a big BFDI hot takes video, and when it's finished, it'll probably be about an hour long, if not longer. As you can imagine, that takes time, so while we wait, why don't we look at the 4 Disventure Camp episodes that I still need to talk about? I mean, I'm already halfway through, I might as well see it through to the end. As of me writing this script, Disventure Camp is up to episode 18, but by the time I get to editing, episode 19 will almost definitely be out, so I'll be sure to add that one to the video as well. Alright, done rambling, let's get started. I briefly talked about episode 16 when it first came out, and at the time, I wasn't super duper nice to it. Initially, I thought this episode was really boring, but looking back, I probably wasn't in the right mindset to give it a fair shot. Not only was I salty about the returnees, but I also watched Teapot 18 right after I finished, and yeah, that was a mistake. I hold BFDI to some pretty high standards. It genuinely might be my favorite show, so putting these two shows in the same boat really isn't fair to Disventure Camp. So upon rewatching the episode with a clear head, I can honestly say it's pretty good. I like most of the scenes in this episode, but I think the pre-challenge scenes are a lot better than everything that happens afterwards. While I do think the dynamic between Zayd and Anastasia could have been fleshed out a little bit more by this point, I think the scene between them is pretty nice. For Anna, this scene was kind of a huge wake-up call for me. Despite the fact that I always knew her to be a Russian lesbian supermodel, it wasn't until this scene that I had a really scary revelation. She's a Russian lesbian supermodel. For those of you who don't know, Russia is not a very tolerant country, and it wasn't until this scene that I remembered all of that, so wow, that's depressing. That on its own is pretty telling, but I want to focus on Zayd for a moment because I know the season itself will not. By this point, it should be pretty clear that I like Zayd a lot more than most people in the fandom if I'm reading the room correctly, but goddamn, I really love this moment for him. Zayd's connection with his mother is incredibly sweet, and I find it to be one of the more compelling character motivations of the cast. This scene proves to me that Zayd could totally carry this show as a main character if Odd Nations would give him some fucking screen time, but no, we gotta give all our attention to Logan and Spencer. Okay, I say that, but you know what? I actually like what they've got going on here. So after like 5 or 6 episodes of teasing and suggestive comments shared between the two, we ultimately come to the conclusion that Logan does not actually have romantic feelings for Spencer. And I think that's for the best. I understand that there are a lot of people out there who probably like this pairing, and that's okay. I was 14 once too. But at the end of the day, I think this is the best way for their will they, won't they situationship to come to an end. Because all things considered, while the writers were very forward with these two being portrayed as stock yaoi couple number 3, I feel like this outcome is in character for both of them. Spencer just isn't ready to be in another relationship, and this fact is made a lot more clear later in the episode, but we'll get there. And Logan only recently figured out that he was bisexual. That's a whole new side of him that he has to explore, and dating a relative stranger on reality TV probably isn't the best way to go about that. Now, I could critique how the setup for this specific conclusion could have been foreshadowed a little bit better. But that would be very pedantic of me, and I'm not going to look for reasons to complain about the show. It's a good scene, and I'm going to give it credit for that. As for the challenge, there are plenty of highlights. Most notably is the best scene of the episode, where Marissa throws Isabel like 10 feet in the air. That scream is really funny. Dynamic-wise, most everyone is pretty good, but fairly unremarkable. Hannah and Amelie are okay, Isabel and Marissa are okay, Benji and Jade are okay. The only two teams I really want to talk about are Dispenser and Alistalia. We're gonna start with Dispenser because they really are the emotional core of this episode. And you know what? It's the darndest thing. Despite how much I tore these two apart earlier in the season, I don't hate the resolution of this plotline. My biggest concern with these two was that they'd end up as another Disventure Camp gay couple with no chemistry, and that concern mostly went away when Diego got eliminated. And following that, I was worried that they were going to bring Diego back into the game just to milk him and Spencer for drama, overshadowing basically everyone else in the process. Had they brought him back just to do this plotline for a third time, I'm not exaggerating, I would have stopped watching the show. Thankfully, it's clear with this episode that that was never the plan, and what we got instead is something that I actually do like. I'll admit, they did a good job rebuilding Diego. I completely understand where he's at emotionally, and everything he does makes sense given that context. He was hurt by Spencer blindsiding him, and I think it's okay that he's not okay with that. If he started lashing out at Spencer and telling him that he deserved to be abused by his boyfriend or whatever, that would have been a problem, and I was honestly kind of expecting him to do that. But no, Diego is honest with his feelings, but not in a way that puts Spencer down, and I like that. Despite being upset, he doesn't completely fly off the handle and break boundaries in an attempt to hurt Spencer. I never thought we'd get to the point where Diego is written better than Jake and Ellie, but here we are. On Spencer's end, I don't think the story is quite as strong, but I think resolving his conflict with Diego is probably the first step he needed to take towards healing. Because his ex clearly hurt him, and in turn he hurt Diego, which is something he clearly does feel guilty about. Both of them did things wrong, but given who they are as people, it's clear why they made these mistakes and how things turned so sour. The drama between these two is better because they aren't in a relationship, and I'm very pleasantly surprised by how Disventure Camp handled this idea. I don't know, maybe I'm getting soft on this show, but I like how this plot was wrapped up, and now that I've seen the full vision, I think I like the Diego and Spencer plotline, which is insane because when this show started, this was the one thing that I didn't like. So you know what? Props to Odd Nations for subverting my expectations in a good way. Stuff like this is why Season 4 is shaping up to be the best of the show. Natalia and Alessio were also handled well. Very well. These two make for an amazing duo, and I really liked all of their scenes together. In my honest opinion, Natalia has way more chemistry with Alessio than she ever did with Isabel, and considering they've only been speaking for one episode, that is both incredibly magical and incredibly sad. That might sound like a good thing, and that's because it is. However, despite how much I like this duo, they actually shine a light on a consistent problem that Disventure Camp has had since Season 1. This is gonna sound like I'm coping, but I promise I'm not. Hear me out here. Based on the previous episodes, from a narrative perspective, there is absolutely no reason to not have either Alessio or Ted return to the game. Aside from maybe Diego, who finished his arc in this episode, episode 13 was about Ted and Alessio. You could argue that this isn't the case, and that everyone was equally important in that episode, but you would be spouting a falsehood. Look at Amelie and Alessio's plotlines in episode 13, and honestly try to tell me that they're both equally as important as each other. I do not think you can. Because for all intents and purposes, Alessio was the main character of that episode, with Ted being a close second. And the scenes diving into Alessio's motivations as well as his backstory really do back this up. So why go through the effort to set all of that up if you're not gonna have them return? Well, the answer is simple. They are gonna return. In Season 5. See, Disventure Camp did this thing in Season 1 where they intentionally ended plotlines on an unsatisfying ending, fully knowing that they were going to resolve them in All-Stars. This is most obvious with Tom and Jake's ambiguous ending, and Alec having beef with a literal 6-year-old. You can probably guess by the tone of my voice that I don't like this approach very much. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have a plotline that impacts multiple seasons. In Total Drama, for instance, Duncan and Courtney's relationship is a relevant plotline in every season that they compete in. But aside from All-Stars, a season well documented as being awful, that plotline still has satisfying endpoints at the end of every season. So if you watched Island, and only Island, you could still walk away feeling like that storyline was complete. But Disventure Camp, by contrast, will sometimes leave plot threads dangling because Odd Nations knows there will be another season, and more often than not, that has a negative impact on the current season. That's what Season 1 did, and the final episode seriously suffered because of that. Now, I tell you all this because while episode 13 isn't nearly as bad in that regard, it's clear that they're still planning way too far ahead. So in an attempt to preserve these characters for future seasons, they went with returnee options that don't provide as much to the current season. I think Marissa does work as a returnee because having seen up to episode 18 by this point, I think she's got plenty of great scenes and a decent amount of agency in the game. She still had stuff with Anastasia to wrap up, and because it wouldn't make sense to bring her back in Season 5, I think her returning to the game works perfectly well. Amelie, on the other hand, No. I'll state for the record that Amelie is a character with a lot of potential that should have been explored in another season and not this one. Because in this season, she has two relevant character traits, being Hannah's friend and being French, neither of which necessitate a return. She is going to be a tool for Hannah's plot and nothing more, and low-key, she's not even the best tool for the job. Pair Hannah with Zaid and you can expand on their rivalry, showing how the game is bringing out the worst in them. Or you could pair her with Marissa, who can serve as Hannah's guiding light while also sticking to her own principles in the process. And it would give Marissa another interaction with someone besides Anastasia, which I think she needs. Hell, you could even bring back Ted Gordon. Instead of trying to get her back on the straight and narrow, Ted could take advantage of an isolated Hannah, purposely encouraging her to play a ruthless game so he can get revenge on the blue team. I feel like at least one of those would have been more interesting than, oh no, Hannah is like me now. I cannot believe it. I'm so sorry, sub. I'm so sorry you had to hear that. So yeah, I think having Amelie return was a misstep. I don't hate Amelie, so it's not like the season is ruined now, but there were so many better ways to handle this return challenge, so I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed. Overall, I like episode 13. It's not perfect or anything, but no episode of this show is or ever will be, so we're still in the green. I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but I figure I'll ask anyway. Keith Yeti, what did you think of this episode?
Two of my favorite characters returned, so I'm very happy about that.
Wait, really? Is that all?
I'm sorry, did you want me to go on another tirade about how much I love lesbian relationships in media?
I mean, yeah, kinda. That's the thing that you do on this channel.
Well, I'm not going to. I've taken some time to evaluate how I talk about women, and I've realized that my affinity for girls' love has gone too far.
Keith, buddy, you're just a little insect guy. No one's gonna judge you like that.
I'm judging myself. I need to show the world that I have more than two personality traits.
I feel the need to ask how you plan on doing that.
Oh, trust me, I have a plan. And once I put it into motion, the world will go to fear Keith.
You are such a delight. You know that?
Shut the fuck up.
Episode 17. Oh boy, I'm honestly not sure where to start with this one. It's not a bad episode, and I mostly enjoy what it has to offer, I think, but it's a lot easier for me to identify what it does wrong rather than what it does right. So let me just quickly say that this episode does have plenty of strengths. I really like the challenge, Zaid is cool as always, and I think this is a nice performance for Marissa. Her scenes in this episode really did sell me on her return. I think this episode is solid, and still up to the standards of a normal DC4 episode. And I want you to keep that in mind as I discuss some of the things that happen here. The only two characters that I think are worth going over in detail are Logan and Natalia, and we're going to start with Logan because, oh baby, do I have some words for him. A lot of you seem to think that throwing sand in an elephant's eyes isn't good enough to justify me hating Logan as much as I do, and you're well within your right to think that. But how about I tell you what he does in this episode, and then we'll see where you stand. So this is basically the same truth or lie challenge from DCAS, and in an attempt to knock Spencer down, Marissa asks him what role he played in Richard's elimination. And I'm gonna let this scene speak for itself.
I got the girls to target Richard.
I'll need more explaining.
I used some information Logan told me to convince them.
What?
I had to, Logan.
We were working together, you... Again, Belle, again.
Oh, don't you worry, I will. In fact, here's another clip that takes place about a minute later.
You throw shots, I fire back. Logan, let's finish her off.
Spencer, are you using me?
Logan, ask her.
Spencer, are you using me? Wow, that is some serious gumption coming from you, Mr. Logan Bellhop. I should hope that the problem is somewhat clear. With how often Logan has flipped during the votes, this scene makes him out to be an enormous hypocrite. Doubly so considering the scene right after this is Logan clarifying that he has no hard feelings towards Natalia for flipping. on the exact same vote. What is the difference here? My reading of this scene is that Logan is getting hung up on the fact that Spencer used information that he gave to him in order to sway the vote, and I do think that Logan would be in his right to be mad at that. Except for the fact that in prior eliminations, he and Natalia have done the exact same thing. Logan, buddy, I know you're supposed to be a himbo and all, but flipping on your friends during the votes was like your one strategy during the pre-merge. How are you doing? Explain this to me.
What if that's the point? What if Logan's outburst is indicative of a character flaw that he needs to overcome?
Maybe. I don't think that's what they're going for, but even if they are, that doesn't change the fact that I don't like him.
I think you need to relax. Let's talk about Natalia instead.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good idea. I like Natalia. I think she's a very fun, charismatic character who, in my opinion, is way funnier than Benji could ever hope to be. So I was hoping that she'd get a well-written, emotionally impactful send-off to cap off her time on the show, and Odd Nation certainly tried their best to make that happen. I don't think they succeeded, though. I thought about this elimination for a while because I didn't want my point to come across as, this character is handled poorly because Natalia made a dumb game move. I don't think that's a very good argument. In a show of this nature, you need characters to make dumb game decisions and irrational game moves because that keeps things interesting. As funny as that scene was, Ivy completely overplaying her hand and incurring Hannah's wrath is a good example of this. But I'm going to stand by that Natalia's elimination wasn't handled as well as it could have been, primarily because of what happens in episode 18, but we will get to that later. One thing that really confuses me is how Anastasia and Natalia will sometimes have a confessional where they're like, I can't believe I have to work with Spencer of all people. You don't, though. In an attempt to blindside Anastasia, Natalia summons everyone except for her, Marissa, and Zayd to join in on the vote, but Spencer being here is completely unnecessary. Natalia, Logan, Amelie, Hannah, Jade, Isabel. That is 6 votes, and if all these people vote together, it literally does not matter what Spencer does. The majority is set in stone. Why is he here? If Natalia and Spencer were friends, or at the very least on good terms with each other, then that would have solved 90% of the problems with this elimination, and made this scene make more sense. But that's not the case. Natalia actively does not like him. I understand that she wanted to target Anastasia first because she was the biggest threat, but there's nothing stopping her from targeting her the very next elimination after Spencer leaves. Bringing Spencer in on the vote isn't just unnecessary, but actively detrimental because everyone hates him, and I feel like that should have been a given for her. For example, if Zayd was the one to spearhead this vote, then I could see him making a mistake like this. But for Natalia, I don't think it works quite as well. I don't expect every character to be as socially savvy as a human resources manager, but that is what Natalia does for a living. All of that is to say that Natalia's actions after the challenge don't feel natural to me. All of that feels like a very contrived way to justify Spencer surviving another elimination, and I feel like there were better ways to go about that. There's also her outburst at the ceremony, which I personally didn't care for, but I don't think it detracts from the episode, and I like the scene between her and Logan. Aside from all of that, I do think this is a solid episode. It just so happens that the flaws are much more noticeable than its strengths. And that's about it. On to episode 18. I feel like episode 18 does a good job highlighting where everyone is at this point in the game. Anastasia has an iron grip on the competition, Marissa is her right-hand woman, Spencer has no allies because everyone hates him, Hannah is about to start her anti-hero arc, and Logan and Zayd are kinda just bumming around, and that's funny. I joke, but I actually really like Zayd's scenes at the beginning of this episode, because as it stands, he's a complete outsider, and I think this season is doing a good job demonstrating that. I don't love how underwritten he's been for most of the season, but if you pay attention to his scenes, there is actually something there. I really hope that he and Hannah have more scenes together. Given their history and how they both voted off each other's allies, there's a lot of potential between the two of them. The best part of this episode, though, is definitely the challenge, and everything that happens around it. Case in point, Derek is gone, hooray! My condolences to all 6 of the Derek fans. I can't imagine this is easy for you. I'd like to say that I feel bad for you, but you made the conscious decision to be a Derek fan, so This is really for your own good. Welcome back, Emily. Love the dress, by the way. This challenge is based on the Survivor auction, and Disventure Camp takes full advantage of that formula. Between all the frantic bidding for prizes and the subtle character interactions throughout, this is the first challenge in a while that I think is legitimately fun to watch. I'm not gonna articulate why each little scene works the way it does, because then we'd be here all day, but I think this challenge blends comedy and drama very well. There's plenty of funny scenes here, like Isabel going crazy for a margarita and Logan and Zayd trying to outbid each other for a mystery prize. Surprisingly enough, I think the funniest character this episode is probably Amelie. I don't really laugh at this show all that much, but Amelie had multiple scenes that made me think, oh yeah, that's funny. Then you've got the more dramatic scenes, such as the bidding war between Jade and Spencer that I will talk about in more detail later on. And of course, Marissa's breakdown once the loved one's prize is put on the table. Now that she's not tied down to Linda and the Girls Alliance, Marissa has really been able to shine. And while she's had a lot of nice scenes before this one is what really sold her character for me.
I just need to hear my mom's voice. Or my brother's stupid laugh. Just, please.
Take it.
Easily one of the best challenges to date, but obviously that's only half the episode. We have an elimination to discuss, and unfortunately for our boy Spencer, he has officially run his course. Now that he's gone, I think now is a good time to reflect on probably the most controversial character this season and see if he was handled well. I do like how this episode portrayed his downfall. Because he burned bridges with literally everyone still in the game, no one was willing to offer him extra money when he needed it, costing him an advantage and immunity. He was a villain, speaking narratively, but he was nowhere near as bad as Fiore, Rhea, or Yul, for example, so I don't think he needed to be shaved bald or anything like that. For a disloyal free agent constantly working behind people's backs, I think this is a great way to send him off. But did he deserve to make it this far in the first place? Well, no, not really. Spencer's path to the final 8 really forces you to suspend your disbelief, and I think episode 17 is where his journey really should have ended. Not only because he had no allies by that point, but because he and Logan had that big blowout. Logan really was his last lifeline in the game, and I think him getting eliminated right after breaking Logan's trust would have been very symbolic of his game. But I don't think it needed to be like that. As is, I still think Spencer's elimination was handled well. I'm happy to say that despite how I felt about him at the beginning of the season, Spencer has really grown on me. Good job, you stupid nerd. You get to sit at the cool kids table. Okay, that is 3 of the 4 episodes I'm going to cover in this video, and as of me writing this script right now, at this very moment, episode 19 is finally out. I'll get to watching that in a bit, but first I gotta check out the Mashup Week Megamix results. I sure do hope that Rick wins.
Hey guys, I don't know what's going on, but I don't think Lexi is coming back. I asked her what was wrong, but she wouldn't stop crying. So, I guess I need to watch the new episode. Hopefully it's a good one. Oh my god, alright. If I'm going to review this episode like a professional, I need to put on my professional voice. Ahem.
There we go, that's better. Hopefully now, I can talk about the episode without hurting anyone's ears. Episode 19 is definitely my new favorite episode of the season. In fact, this might be one of the best episodes in the entire series. Where do I even begin? For the first time in the entire series, it feels like every character has an important role in the episode. Without Spencer as public enemy number 1, everyone is forced to scramble as they try to confirm their alliances and avoid ending up on the bottom of the social totem pole. When the mood is so chaotic, you need a chaotic challenge to match, and this episode definitely delivers. The goal of this challenge is to escape from this giant clown robot. I'm going to call him Clownbot 9000, because I think that name is cool. Clownbot is so awesome. I love his design, because it makes him look very funny, or very intimidating, depending on how he's used. When he's chasing down the contestants, the way he moves makes him look very unnerving, but when he's falling off a cliff, he looks very funny. And I think it's so cool how they managed to do that. The funny thing is, if everyone just worked together, they'd easily be able to escape and survive Clownbot. But because everything is so tense, this challenge is very stressful, because you never know who is going to betray the group. Speaking of, let's talk about them. Logan and Zayd have decided to play more strategically after the Spencer elimination, and it's interesting to see them discuss strategy. Even though they both like Anastasia, it's interesting to see them making a plan to eliminate her, because let's be honest, she's been a bit shady. I like that Logan is starting to take the game into his own hands, ironically, becoming a lot colder in the process, like Spencer. I'm not the biggest fan of Logan, mainly because he keeps taking screen time away from the cooler women around him. But I like this direction for his character, and if he continues down this path, maybe I can grow to like him. Zayde is okay. Honestly, I don't know why Lexi likes him so much. I don't get the appeal, but even still, he has some good scenes with Logan and Marissa. Unlike Logan, Zayde is fully willing to team up with Anastasia, and I'm curious to see what comes of that. Hannah and my queen, Emily, are also very good. Disventure Camp has a lot of characters who only exist to support other people, like Rose and Maria, and Ashley, but I think they're trying to subvert that trope with Hannah. I like how mean she is now. It's not a complete personality change, because from time to time, the old Hannah comes back. But it's clear that losing her friends has really hurt her, and she's going to make it everyone else's problem. As for Emily, it's interesting to see her making connections with everyone else, since she didn't get to make any the first time. The tension between these two is very effective, especially when Hannah ditches Emily for immunity. At first, I wondered why Emily was so mad, because it's not like Emily would have been able to win immunity anyway. But then I saw that Logan didn't have a flag, and it all made sense. I will never doubt you again, my queen. Their fight after the challenge is very sad. Hannah is dealing with so much, and I really feel for her here. Her outburst is raw and powerful, and I think the VA did a great job. I think Emily bringing up Hannah's mom was kind of mean. But I just said I wouldn't doubt her, so I'll shut up. Jade and Isabel don't do as much at first, but obviously, they kick it into high gear during the elimination ceremony. Jade spent so long trying to eliminate Spencer, a former ally of hers who played a cutthroat game, only to realize that her new #1 ally is just as, if not more cutthroat. And I think that's so cool. I will be honest, I hate Isabel a lot. Part of the reason is because she tried to get rid of the Yuri in the show, and I can't stand for that. But also, as a terror from the abyss, her Jesus stick hurts my eyes and skin. That aside, I have to give her credit for this crazy elimination. When she whispered her plan to Jade, I didn't know what was going to happen. But then I thought to myself, wait, does she still have her idol? Lo and behold, she did. I completely forgot about Isabel's idol, because she got it 17 episodes ago. I don't like complimenting my nemesis, especially considering what happens after her idol play, but I have to give credit where it's due. Now then, let's talk about my favorite Disadventure Camp couple. Ever since Marissa returned, they've been doing cute Yuri things, and I loved every moment of it. But fraternities never succeed, so I knew it was only a matter of time before they split up. But wow, I didn't expect it to happen like this. Because of Isabel's dastardly plan, Marissa and Anastasia are tied, and have to do a final challenge to stay in the game. Putting my girls against each other like that is so cruel, and I kind of want to destroy the church because of that. But man, this resolution is so moving. Anastasia's been on top of the world for a while now, so to see her in such a vulnerable state really makes me feel for her. I know what the fandom has been saying. I think her being evil was fun, but it was definitely turning people against her, so I think this was a good choice. Losing Marissa so soon after her return is sad, but her elimination gives Anastasia the motivation to continue, and hopefully win the whole thing. They also, kiss, and say I love you to each other. But I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I have self-control. I will not gush over the adorable lesbian couple, no matter how much I want to. I am not just a Yuri creature. I am a multifaceted creature with thoughts and opinions beyond girls kissing.
Marissa, I'm sorry.
A fucking hurricane. That's what you are.
It wasn't supposed to be like this.
Maybe not. Life doesn't always go as planned. Sometimes you think you'll join the military, but then you meet an absolute bombshell who flips your whole world upside down. And while the future is uncertain and terrifying, you're grateful for it.
Marissa, I love you too.
Oh my fucking god, yes, this is the best day of my life. Disventure Camp Infinity Book Show. I'm gonna die, this is so awesome. 10 out of 10 episode. Lexi, what did you think?
Yeah, it was cool, I guess.
Come on, Lexi, if I can survive Marissa being eliminated twice, you can handle the rest of Mashup week without Rick.
That's not the same and you know it.
You do realize that most of your audience doesn't even know what you were talking about, right?
Good! Then they'll never have to understand the pain of having a body pillow-shaped hole in their hearts. You don't know what it's like to lose someone like that.
I had to eat my mom.
But you know what? I don't have to deal with this. I'm gonna go play my mad scientist roommate turn me into her personal robotic battle maiden until I feel better.
Isn't that game about BDS?
No! Kinda. Okay, maybe a little bit, but I'm sad and this is how I'm choosing to cope. Leave me alone.
I'm sure she'll get over it eventually. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I'd like to give a shout out to our awesome channel members. Sheepishly, Gomez, Stoke, Factually False, S. Our Guts, The Jones, So Willis, Commander Gold, MI-37,000, and she who shall not be named. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. I'm proud to call all of you my siblings. The FDI hotcakes should be next. I'll make sure that Lexi gets to work on it. After that, make a Mashup week video. I feel like she has a lot to say on that. If you'd be interested in that, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. I had a lot of fun reviewing an episode. Maybe we could do this again sometime. For now though, the video is over. See you next time.